Hey friend, are you developing your intuition at this point in your life? Well, so am I. I have a reading today that is specifically about deepening our intuition, our trust in that inner voice, and learning to be able to better understand what is our intuition versus what is our logical mind and how they actually relate to each other. All right, guiding our reading today, I have Laced Moon's Daughter. Laced Moon's Daughter is all about learning to navigate the inner worlds, so that way we don't end up tripping up over illusions, so that we can understand what we're looking at, in order to better understand ourselves through understanding this inner world and helping us to be able to navigate through this. All right, starting out, I have the Eight of Wands. The Eight of Wands is very much this mercurial kind of energy, right? Speed, communication. We also have this Jupiter energy back here, this expansion. So you have your thoughts, right? Our thoughts are constantly going, just chattering away, at 1,000 miles an hour. When we're going to work with our intuition, the trick is to be able to kind of find that inner, quieter little voice that comes up before our doubts, before the logic. That soft little kind of like hint or nudge in the direction of what is, actually the information that we're trying to get for ourselves. So I have the Nine of Swords reversed. And what this is giving me the impression of here is when you're developing your intuition, it's not necessarily in the sense of like awakening. Yes, you may be awakening as in you're having like these revelations and understandings and epiphanies that are coming into your life at this time. But the intuitive process is more of a going within, right? Since the Nine of Swords would typically be this woman that she's waking up out of a nightmare. In reverse, what I'm getting here is a deliberately going within the dream spaces. For example, maybe if you're somebody who practices dream incubation, this could be a good way to help your intuition. Even if you don't have a direct practice such as that, it's kind of like a going inward, going into sleep, going into the dream spaces, right? Because our intuition speaks in the language that we experience when we are dreaming. So becoming familiar with that inner space helps us to be able to connect to and really recognize when these intuitive hits are coming up more easily. Now, we do have a tendency at times to really kind of overburden, or overcomplicate whatever's coming through whenever we have a message, right? You have the Ten of Wands. This individual here, he's got all the wands, he's carrying by himself. Even though he's almost to town, there's this kind of like, I don't need help, I've got this, and I'm moving on, moving forward. And this has a tendency to block our intuition, has a tendency to kind of keep us out of this High Priestess energy. The High Priestess is a master of intuition. She knows how to go within. She knows how to identify what's going on in her inner world, right? She has the crystal ball here and her book, okay? So the thing is, when it comes to our intuition, it's not necessarily that we are separating our logic from this, because she has her knowledge, she has her book understanding of things, and then her ability to perceive into the inner worlds, right? When we have this overcomplication or carrying all this additional weight of our thoughts, of our interpretations, of our impressions, and we really kind of move away from the simpler answer that presents itself initially off, then this is where we kind of get hung up on our intuition. I've had this happen to myself a couple of times when preparing a reading, and it could take me a while to really understand what's going on with the cards. But as we continue to practice, this kind of helps us move out of this over complex thoughts, and you kind of get this more just a natural impression of things, right? But like I said, we're overcomplicating, we're overthinking things, and your creativity, your inspiration just gets stuck this way. this isn't a bad thing because this logical, frame of our mind is actually helpful for us in our day-to-day operations, right? We have the King of Pentacles. He's very intelligent. He's good with money. He knows how to make good decisions. His logic helps him to create the reality that he wants. All right. So this was the initial block that, a lot of us tend to come up against whenever we're developing our intuition is we want to overthink things. We want to overcomplicate things. Now, our logical mind does definitely have a place in the process, but it should not be step one. You are moving into a new territory when you are working with your intuition. The Page of Wands, right? You do have this initial inspiration, but it's not like the Ten of Wands where you're carrying all this extra thing. You have that one little aha moment, start there. Because when you start with the one little moment where you're at right now, then you can move on to the next one and on to the next one, right? Obviously, when we have the Page of Wands, they're very excited, ready to go. They have this, fantastic adventure ahead of them. And you definitely have this fantastic adventure ahead of you. But you got to understand that, like, when you're operating from your intuition, it is more helpful for you to treat it as an act of exploration instead of coming in with this idea of like, oh, this is this, or I have the expectation that it's going to be this way. This blocks us from experiencing things as they really are. You are this Three of Pentacles, all right? When we think of the Three of Pentacles in your Rider-Waite-Smith, you would have the artisan here, the priest, and the wealthy individual who is funding the work to be able to create this temple. You, as the artisan, you have a craft. You do bring something to the table. When you're developing your intuition, your skill, whatever that is, whether you're using tarot, whether you use numerology, and you're seeing like angel numbers everywhere, you first have a language that you learn to communicate within, right? If you're learning the tarot, for example, it's fine for you to take a look in the books to be able to get like the initial meaning and impression, because it gives you an idea of the language that you're working with. But that's only the beginning. Learn the language and then stop thinking about it, right? You don't think about your words when you're holding a conversation with somebody unless, like you're really trying to communicate something difficult or you're an overthinker. But the point here is like you learn the language so that way your intuitive mind, your higher self, has something to communicate to you through. But you got to remember, this is a collaborative effort. There are, in fact, 3 individuals within this, right? So this is this co-creative kind of energy. When you create the language for yourself to be able to understand your intuition, for your intuition to be able to communicate to you because it knows that, like, hey, if I see this card, I'm going to think of this thing. Whenever you are exercising that intuition, your subconscious mind is going to use that as the way to communicate to you, but you have to step a little bit aside, right? We have this Nine of Wands, right? The Nine of Wands, he's very much a prepared kind of individual. Like, he has experience that allows him to handle things as they come up, right? So you have the knowledge. Maybe, like, if you get this idea of, like, what do these cards mean? So you have, like, when you draw a card, now okay, well, this card's associated with this, right? You have the knowledge, you have the skills, you are prepared, but he's the Nine of Wands and not necessarily the Ten of Wands. Don't worry too much if you think that you're too much of an overthinker. If you have the ability to put down one wand, just one, that's the only space that's needed for your intuition to be able to function, for spirit to be able to communicate. You just need to leave them that one opening, and then you pause, and you wait, and you observe. You're not on the move. You have your knowledge, but you also have the ability to step back and just observe. Okay. So when we we start to step back and we're observing, and we kind of have like these intuitive hits going on, and we're starting to be able to discern, like, oh, I thought this, and but then there was this other thing that's like not my usual way of looking at things or not my usual way of thinking about things. This kind of lets us be able to come to this Eight of Swords. And when I'm looking at the Eight of Swords, I'm not looking at this as helplessness. I'm not looking at this as being bound. Anytime I see the Eight of Swords, whether upright or reversed, to me, this indicates the ability to free ourselves from perceived bindings. Because anytime you are aware, like, you can take the blindfolds off, because the woman in the Eight of Swords is able to take the blindfolds off. She's able to take the bindings off. When you come to this awareness that you, in fact, are able to remove the things that are holding you back, when you are able to set down the one wand, at least, to allow that space, then you know that you can open yourself up. You can take the blindfold off. You can see. You can perceive what it is that you're trying to understand. And the thing is, next up is the Fool reversed. So, yes, we could look at the Fool as the blind, leap of faith, the stepping off the cliff, not knowing what's ahead of them. But when I'm looking at this in reverse here, what I'm getting is that it's not a complete blind leap. You can see one or two steps in front of you, and those one or two steps, are enough for you to be able to take the step, say, like, okay, I'm here, I take the next step, and, I kind of let myself see what's here. I take the next step, I allow myself to see what's here. This is the foundation that is actually going to build up your intuition. The trust, the process of one step at a time, right? Like when you're going from one place to another, you don't just teleport there. You have to walk or drive or bike or however you're getting there, right? So this foundation that you're building, this intuition, every time you take another step with whatever information you have, the next piece of information is going to be presented, and then the next piece. And it's like building a building, like you build it a brick at a time, and eventually you get enough bricks, you have a wall. So your intuition is like this, just trusting each individual step as it comes adds to your capacity to work with your intuition. And this is a partnership, okay? We have the Four of Wands, the connection between your right brain and your left brain, the logical and the intuitive part of you, between you and your spirit guides, between you and your higher power, whatever that, you're seeing the connection to, there is this partnership, this marriage between the two sides, right? We come to this Eight of Cups reversed, right? You practice with your intuition. You're taking the one step at a time, and you start to realize that you don't need to look outside of yourself for answers or for satisfaction or something to that effect, right? The Eight of Cups, you have this one empty space, this missing thing that this individual feels like is not quite there, that would bring them into that Nine of Cups satisfaction. But if we're looking at this in reverse, what I'm getting here is that, like, you kind of come to this contentedness within yourself through the practice where you're like, oh, I don't have to seek outside for answers. I do have answers within myself. And when you find those answers within yourself, what you're finding is that you have this abundance, this legacy, this prosperity already exists within you, right? You can't get more full or more content or more rich than the Ten of Pentacles or the Ten of Cups. You know that all the answers, all the possibilities, the whole of reality does in fact exist within you, right? The knowledge in itself that these things are immediately accessible to you regardless of whether you feel like you're connected to your intuition at that moment in time, builds a relationship, builds that connection, builds that, that structure, that home, the all the things that you would associate with this Ten of Pentacles, right? So you have the thing within you, you have all the possibilities, all the answers, and you kind of are looking for answers on something, and you get a coin handed to you. Okay, here's a coin. Here's the next coin. Like I said, you're taking one step at a time. As impatient as, maybe sometimes we can get whenever we're working on our intuition to want to know all the answers, the thing is, it's not necessarily that the answers are being hidden from you. Okay, the King of Wands, right? The King of Wands is a master manifester, just like the Queen, but he's more in this proactive, masculine, active type of an energy as opposed to the receptive type of an energy. He creates his reality and he expects it to be. So here's the thing, you get into your intuition is connected to that part of you that manifests, that part of you that does the magic, that creates your reality. This expectation that he has, his hand out, this isn't like an unreasonable type of an expectation that a lot of people think of when you think of the term like faith, right? Like, oh, I don't know, but I trust the process. No, think of, we'll say for an example, if you are going over to a friend's house, but you've never been to their house before. You've got the map, you get a general idea of where you're going, but when you get into the neighborhood, you have to take a couple turns before you get there. So you enter into the neighborhood, and right now as you're driving, you can see the houses that are nearby. So you can see these houses, you can see a few houses that are ahead, and you know that like when you turn the corner, there's going to be more houses. These houses aren't being hidden from you. It's that the current thing that is nearby is what you are seeing. The houses aren't invisible. They just happen to have other things that are in the way. This trust, this expectation is the expectation that when you turn down the next street, your eyes are going to continue to work and you're going to be able to see what's there. And then that expectation continues that when you turn down the next street, that your eyes are still working and you're going to be able to see what's there. Intuition doesn't always necessarily mean that we're seeing the bigger picture in the whole, though you can definitely have that experience. It means that we are able to see the things as they come. And the trust comes from not this feeling of like a leap per se. It comes from the certainty of knowing that, like I said, when you turn the corner, you're going to be able to see the next things that are there. This right here is the mastery of your intuition, right? The one step at a time, instead of becoming the practice, instead of becoming the exercise that I'm getting better at my intuition, you realize it is the intuition. Now, this is how your intuition actually works. You have the information that's immediately available to you that maybe your logical mind isn't presenting, and you take the next step, and you take the next step. And that right there is what gives you this mastery, this emperor energy, okay? And when you come into this mastery and you're really kind of starting to connect into your intuition, this energy that you're tapping into, that you are forming a relationship with, it lights you up. It ignites your own capacities, your own abilities. The Ace of Wands, right? We have this DNA strand, the fire that's being ignited within this wand. Your connection is what feeds your growth. It is what feeds your ability to create your reality. There is not a separation between what is your intuition and what is your creative power. It is one and the same thing. It's yin and yang. It's just a different function, a different operation of this same energy. And this is, like I said, you have this capacity. You realize, like, it's within myself. I have these eyes to see with. I have these ears to hear with. They work, and I know that as each thing comes up, I'm going to be able to have that. And you continue to build the confidence, and you continue to build the power. And when you have this connection to your reality and you go, okay, I'm going to manifest this thing, I'm going to do the magic for this thing, you create it, and then you follow your intuition step by step. You come into this Queen of Pentacles, all right? You had this King of Pentacles energy earlier when you started with your logical mind, when you started with, the thoughts, the processes, right? The King and the Queen still are, they're still running the same kingdom. She's just allowing things to come to her and nurturing. So you want to allow yourself, the self-nurturing. You want to allow things to come to you, right? Just, like I said, a step at a time. All right, next up, I have the Two of Swords, okay? When I'm looking at the Two of Swords, I'm not getting this kind of modern day interpretation a lot of people have of the you shall not pass Two of Swords. The reality is, if you know at least a little bit about tarot history, initially the Two of Swords was actually more of a I'm not stopping you, I'm not blocking you type of an energy, right? Because you look at her two swords here, it would be incredibly impractical for somebody to start a fight or be in a fight from this kind of a stance. It is actually more of a guarded, type of a thing. She's got her blindfolds on. What's happening here is I'm not stopping you. I'm not on attack. You may pass. So you get this information. You are allowing it to come in, just attracting it naturally instead of trying to force the experience. You are able to just perceive the information as it is. The King of Swords, right? The King of Swords is a logical individual who, that he separates his emotions from his decisions. And like I said, your logic does in fact come into play in this, but it should be the end step and not the start step. And the reason for this is when you allow yourself to just perceive the information as it is, and you don't tend to overlay your emotions on it saying this is bad, this is good, you just see it as it is, then you can translate it into the language that you've learned, whether that's the tarot, whether that's the angel numbers, runes, whatever method you are exercising your intuition through. The translation comes at the end. And when you kind of get the hang of this process, that's when you start seeing the ships come in. You realize that the information's been there in front of you the entire time, and you're just now able to see it. You're recognizing, okay, this thing's coming in, this thing's coming in. And the practice will continue to build up more and more, and the ships will continue to come in, and you will understand things better and better. All right, friend, I hope this video was helpful for you. If it was, please leave a like for me. Go ahead and leave a comment in my comment section. If you don't know what to type, you can leave me a sunflower emoji. Sunflower is a spirit guide of mine. That'll let me know that you see me, and that'll let the algorithm know that you want to continue to see me. If you're not subscribed to my channel already, please go ahead and subscribe. Go inside my channel, look for a video that resonates with you. If you don't find a video that resonates with you, you can also head into my community section. I have a pinned post where you can ask me a question, and I will make a reading for you. All right, friend, I will see you in the next one.